Hello everyone, welcome once again to Investing with a Difference. So today we are going to talk about how the markets are doing, what can you expect, and some analysis around that, while we will also talk about some new airdrops and some new project updates. First of all, I would like to remind you that we did this weekend show which we posted before the long weekend in US here, and we did cover a lot of airdrops and air grabs news, which is like the actionable items for you. But I would recommend you to go watch that if you have not, because these are the things which you need to do to make best use of your free tokens which you're getting. Now quickly let's jump onto the market. It's getting very exciting. I think a lot of people have been watching this over the long weekend, and we did see quite a good jump in price, like especially if you are, I think we are all here for EOS, and EOS was outperforming. Right now it's kind of consolidating, as you can see, but it was one of the best performing token. We have clearly settled down at number 4 now with a huge margin, as you can see, because EOS moved up by 30 to 40% in last few days. And what happened here is, I think Ethereum started the rally as a platform. I think Ethereum is still has a lot of developers, even though we all understand the struggle around it. But Ethereum is getting a lot of attention because they are going through a fork right now. They call it Constantine Pole, and that's designed to upgrade and move towards proof of stake for Ethereum. And as you know that EOS is already a leading platform in terms of the dApps, in terms of the users, and it's already delegated proof of stake. So this is something, I think, an identification in the market that the key value is not in currencies and more in platforms. While people have a lot of hope from Ethereum, which actually jumped quite a bit, we did see a lot of interest in EOS. So let's see how it sustains. Let me quickly look at the charts, but before that, I started a poll. Do participate here, and this is like our Twitter handle, and over here you will see most of the people are pretty much involved in crypto. They are not like your average traders, people who have been going through this bear market, and still I see that very few people are getting really optimistic here, which is actually a good sign. Like, people are not going overboard with this rally. People are still expecting lows. That means that they're not going overboard. Not like, if almost 75% of people are not yet bought into this rally, usually it's a bullish sign for me, because when people get, I think what happened in 2018 was every time we dropped and we recovered, everybody was like, oh, we have seen the bottom, let's go jump back in. And that's what usually the bottoms don't happen like that. Usually the bottoms happen when the sentiment is low, and you can see clearly even after such a huge jump, while I think most of our followers on Twitter are people who are EOS lovers and EOS followers, they are even after 30-40% rally in last 2-3 days, people are still pessimistic, which is kind of a sign of low sentiment, even in the wake of this rally. Now let's look at the chart. Now what I am looking at is relative chart of EOS with Bitcoin. Of course, after 30-40% move, the USD chart will look great, so I don't want to look at that. What I want to see is the outperformance of EOS. And if you see, we have broken above the major resistance line here. So if you see this red line, you will see that we had created a kind of a downward facing trend line, and we had a big break in last couple of days or so, and we are kind of settling down here. We are not really underperforming too much, while the challenge here is that we have got this top which was formed in September last year, and we have exactly come back from the same level. So now this level becomes very critical, and if you see, there are many other tops right below it. So we have quite a few areas which we have crossed in terms of resistance, but this level will, in terms of BTC, this will act as the major resistance level as of now. What is good about this chart is that we have a lot of consolidation which happened. So if you see here, we had a similar breakout as a huge move in December after reaching very, very low levels as compared to Bitcoin. And after that, we consolidated. So my expectation is, if Bitcoin does not go up or does not sustain a rally in the overall crypto market, maybe we will consolidate, and hopefully we can stay above this trend line. Now, the bigger thing is that this is called the 200-day moving average, the blue line you're seeing, and we have very clearly settled above 200-day moving average. And as you can see, in technical terms, what we do is it broke out of that even before this big move. So the indication was right there that we are ready for a rally. In a positive environment, EOS can do much better than other coins, because we were already breaking out of the 200-day moving average. We tested the trend line, we came back, we retested 200-day moving average, and then when the rally started, we saw a much bigger move. So this is a great small area of chart where you can see that we broke out of trend line, we retested. After going back from the trend line, we actually retested 200-day moving average, which is very good technically. I would say this is a perfect chart for showing that the relative strength of EOS above Bitcoin. So, but as I said, the challenge right now is around 95,000 Satoshi. That's where I think we are going to see little more resistance. And if we consolidate it right under it and then try to break this out, I think we have a pretty good run upwards, which it can take us to new levels. And I think in dollar terms, if Bitcoin sustains here around $4,000 mark, I'm expecting that EOS can really lead to $5 kind of prices very soon. Now, what else is happening in the news? I think, as I mentioned, I will talk about some new airdrops. So pEOS, this is recently came into my attention. This is not really very well publicized token. So this is kind of, if you remember that Dan came out with that whole privacy coin idea, and of course that was just an idea. He was not really developing it. So some team, I don't know exactly who they are, because this is a privacy coin they're building on top of EOS, and they do not want to disclose their names. But I don't know more details about it, but just wanted to highlight that they have already taken a snapshot on 15th of February, that is a couple of days back, or maybe around 4 days back, and they are doing a 1:1 distribution. And this is a token built on EOS mainnet. So you can check the site pEOS.1 and share your ideas on what you think about this project. But this is just for your information. I don't think there's any action to be taken. Everybody will get this based on the snapshot. Now, what else is happening? So Eminate, as I think if you are following some of these projects, Eminate is one of the very good projects on EOS. And what they are doing is they are actually helping the music industry, which is they're trying to create a audio exchange protocol so that you can share music, and directly the music artists are getting rewarded for listening to their music, and removing the centralized entities who are like benefiting for publishing these artists' music. Now, this is a very important use case. I think this is one of the key use cases of blockchain, which a lot of people have been looking for, like, where you are removing the middleman. So Eminate has a pretty strong business case, and they have got a lot of awards and so on. They were raising money, the private sale was going on. So what they're doing is they're actually, to bring more adoption, they are actually doing an airdrop, and AIrdropsDAC is helping do this airdrop of up to 200 tokens. So it's not 1:1. It's going to be fixed amount of token, just like you have seen with other AIrdropsDAC tokens like ZOS and ZKS. So what you need to understand is that EMT will do an airdrop sometime in late February, early March, and you will have to take an action to claim them, to register yourself on Eminate website, and then you will be able to participate. I think they are also implementing some sort of staking and so on, just like some other projects did. So we will follow up on this, but I think this is another good project which is decided to airdrop to wider public, even though they have been raising money and they are doing an ICO. What else is happening in EOS world? I think AIrdropsDAC, while we are talking about them, you may remember that EOS Poker app, which was the poker token, they have stopped operating because after they were not able to provide any dividends. So as I keep telling you, all these gambling sites are very risky, so be careful and don't invest too much. So a lot of people were kind of wondering what is going to happen because EOS Poker had disappeared. That means that they stopped operating the site. And but because they had a very thriving, like, good community, there were a lot of people who were involved in this particular app because they were one of the first poker app. They were doing blackjack and so on. They have actually the community has come together and they have created a poker DAC, and now they are taking like a 1:1 snapshot of poker tokens and rewarding people with those tokens, and they're going to launch it again. And this is again, as I said, an activity from AIrdropsDAC which is helping airdrop these tokens, because it's very costly for community to do the airdrop. So they have come together. So again, I'm not really tracking this closely, but what I can tell you is that if you were poker token holder, do follow these details and participate in this DAC if you want to understand more on what's going on. So this is some of the other news. And I think other thing which AIrdropsDAC has done is, if you already know, if you are you got a like for if you hold poker token, AIrdropsDAC also is rewarding people with some other tokens like DICE, ZKS Play, and ZOS, which are the tokens from AIrdropsDAC itself. And DICE is actually something which has partnered with AIrdropsDAC to provide this and bring these people, the poker people, into the DICE community. So this is a good thing from DICE as well as from AIrdropsDAC. I think they're trying to help out these poker token owners who may have lost a lot of value because of stopping of this game. Again, I keep reminding you that it's not a great idea to invest a huge chunk of your tokens in these gambling sites, because the token model, like, there is no real value unless you're really moving a lot of real world gamblers onto these platforms. And I think initially when their dividend was good was because of the mining tokenomics and so on. And if you are following our Telegram channel, I had highlighted the risks of these investments many times, and we had already told you that this is not going to end well, because there was no real play happening. Like, there is a very small real play, for example, something like we have talked about My Online Vegas and so on, the Royal Vegas and so on. Those guys, MEV token, I think they are generating a small amount of revenues and small dividends very regularly, and I think those are like because of their great UI and so on. And I think these are like a very little revenue generation is still happening, but not like a huge. You do not expect that. People had very high expectation because of all the mining happening, and I think we have been warning everybody that this is not a great idea to believe that those miners will stay around once the mining is not profitable. So I think it's a good sign. I think it's we are maturing as an ecosystem in EOS. All these gambling tokens, they are, because they did not have real use case, most of them are disappearing. Some of them, like DICE, BetDICE, those guys are doing still well because they had introduced the Bitcoin gambling and so on. And I think that some of these sites will remain. That's going to keep generating the organic revenue, while all these copycats are slowly disappearing and not able to maintain the same level of interest, which is a sign of maturing economics, the token economics, as well as the user base. While as we see more and more serious projects, we talked about pEOS, which is kind of a YouTube disrupting technology they're trying to build. We talked about the item games, which is like building all these very exciting real world games. We talked about Emanate, which is doing airdrop. They're trying to disrupt music industry. All these serious apps are coming now and trying to develop, and this takes time. All these serious apps takes time, so do wait for them, while I think EOS is finding its place in the market, slowly establishing itself as one of the leading players. So I think this is where we are now. One final thing before we close today's show is there's a very interesting article from EOS New York. So EOS New York had posted that how to create custom permissions. Now, if you're an EOS user and if you want to understand the safety, this is a very important article, because a lot of people who have not changed their keys, I think one of the key part is how do you generate a new safe pair of key. And this is a very good site now, which is a safe way of generating keys. So what you do is eoskey.io, I wanted to highlight this, is a very good place because you can do it offline. So what you do is you open your browser, you open this particular website. What it does is, and then you can disconnect yourself from the internet, and you can actually download a few keys which you can use later on to change. And this is very useful because what you're doing is you can take your private key, you can store it in a safe place, either on a paper or wherever you feel that you cannot be hacked, and you only use your public key to change your permissions. And this is a very good thing they have done, is that you can do offline key generation. You're not relying on any other interface which you may be using to change your keys, which may be corrupted or which may have issues. And so this is a very, very good idea. And more importantly, this article also talks about how to create a custom permission. For example, they have given an example of how you can do a permission only for voting. Now, of course, this is a little advanced level. If you do not understand the permission system, if you are already struggling with owner and active key, I don't want you to go and worry about these details. But once you already understand active owner key, you need to start realizing the potential of EOS by learning that you can actually build permissions below active key. That means even with active keys, you can create another pair of key which only deals with certain operations, for example only voting, and that you can actually go ahead and use in some other wallets where you are not worried about losing your tokens if somebody loses that key. So there are a lot of interesting ideas which you can develop with EOS once you understand this permission system. There are ideas around, like you can create a game specific key, for example, where you can say, if I'm playing this game on this mobile device, you only use a new key and you only import that key for that particular game. So these are the kind of potential applications of this system. But as I said, it's if you're interested, do read this. I will post a link in the video, but just wanted to highlight some good articles are coming out around how to create your key pairs safely, how to change your permissions, and so on. And do focus on that if you are really willing to participate. But also, we have like in general, I think we are also learning that more and more people want to use an easy way of logging in, and I think it's not very far away. Everypedia is already doing a Facebook and Google based login for EOS accounts, and I'm working with ORID, which is Icon in San Francisco Bay Area, and they are actually providing that solution to Everypedia. So I'm envisioning in future, ultimately, most of you will be using the standard way of logging in, that is your Facebook, Google, or email based login, where somebody else will be holding your private key. So do send us your feedback on what you think about these ideas, because I think a lot of people are still not confident of holding their own private keys. And do you, like, while you're using these decentralized systems, do you believe that you want to give the custody of your keys to somebody else? And if yes, what will be the criteria for you to choose that trusted entity? Would you trust big corporates like Google, Facebook, or in case of EOS, would you prefer Block 1 to hold those keys? Would you trust them rather than other companies like or some other safe way to store these keys? So do let us your feedback if you believe in it. If you believe that no, the crypto has to have like your own keys, you should own your own keys. We would like to hear that as well. So thanks once again for joining. I think we talked about quite a few things, but what the summary is, the market is doing well. We are not out of the woods, but we are breaking some important levels for EOS specifically, while I understand that the overall crypto market will usually define the direction of where the market is heading. And we talked about a lot of progress in many projects, the airdrops around them, what's going on, and how the community is getting more and more mature. Finally, I would say that I would love to hear your feedback on how this thing is going to evolve in terms of EOS account management when we really see mass adoption. And do send us your feedback. Join us on Telegram. I think you can see the link here, or Twitter, and and we also have Facebook community, but it's not that active as Telegram or Twitter. So do join us there and send us your feedback on what you think about the development in EOS world. Thank you for joining. Bye for now.